The first time I wrapped a rope around his neck, my hands didn't shake. That's what still haunts me, not the crowd, not the priest whispering scripture like it could soften the wood beneath his boots. It was the weight of the coins in my pocket, and how heavy they felt for something so small. They told me he killed a rancher in cold blood, said the evidence was clear, said justice needed a steady hand. Mine. I had hanged men before, thieves, cutthroats. One who laughed as the trap door dropped. But this one didn't beg, didn't curse. He just looked at me like he knew something I didn't. Right before I pulled the lever, he leaned close and whispered, "Ask them where the blood really went." I should have ignored it. Instead, I noticed something no one else did. The rancher's boots were clean, too clean for a man dragged through dirt and gravel. The trapdoor creaked. The crowd held its breath. And I realized I wasn't there to deliver justice. I was there to bury the truth. They called me a necessary evil, a man who did what others could not stomach. In towns stitched together by dust and fear, someone had to pull the lever. Someone had to turn judgment into gravity. That someone was me. My name traveled ahead of me like a storm cloud. Gallows builder, rope man. The last face you saw before the sky flipped upside down. I never ask questions. Questions rot a man from the inside. I took the warrant, tested the knot, measured the drop, and let the law do its quiet work. Or at least that's what I told myself when the nights grew long. But the day they paid me to hang that ranch hand, something shifted. The silver felt wrong in my palm, too eager, too clean. The townsfolk avoided my eyes, yet watched me from corners like I was the villain in a play they'd already rehearsed. And that whisper, so it followed me, asked them where the blood really went. This isn't just a story about a rope and a scaffold. It's about the price of obedience, the cost of silence. The moment a man realizes he's not the hand of justice, but the glove hiding it. If you crave stories where truth fights to breathe beneath boots and lies wear sheriff stars, subscribe to Echoes of a Lawless Old West. Like this video, and in the comments, tell me the city and country you're watching from. Tonight we ride back to that gallows, and I'll show you what really happened when I was paid to hang an innocent man. They cut him down before sunset. Frontier custom says you leave a body hanging long enough for certainty to settle into bone. Caldwell insisted we move quick, claimed the heat would spoil things. Funny how mercy arrives late for the living but early for the dead. I helped lower Eli Carter onto a pine board, and when my hands touched his boots, I felt it again. Smooth leather. No barnyard grit wedged in the seams. No scrape along the heel from dragging. I crouched longer than necessary. A hangman notices details. It keeps mistakes from becoming hauntings. The sole edges were damp, recently wiped. Someone had cleaned them after the arrest. That meant someone cared what those boots said. "Problem?" Caldwell asked. His shadow stretched across Eli's still chest. The sheriff's tone carried iron filings. I shook my head and stood, just making sure the knot did its job. "It did," he said quickly, too quickly. They carried Eli toward the undertaker's shed. I watched Caldwell's men disperse the crowd with rehearsed authority, no lingering, no murmurs allowed to root. The town folded back into itself like nothing had happened. But dust remembers footsteps, even when people pretend not to. I didn't go home. Instead, I walked past the saloon, past the general store, straight toward Bell's ranch at the far edge of town. The barn stood quiet beneath a sinking sun. Flies hummed in lazy spirals. A dark stain marked the earth near the door. Blood leaves a signature even when scraped thin. I knelt. The dirt there was disturbed, yes, but not churned the way two grown men fighting would churn it. No deep heel trenches, no scattered straw kicked wide, and the barn door latch. I reached for it slowly. Splintered wood near the hinge. Fresh break. Not from impact, from force applied outward. From inside. Eli had told me to check it. A rider approached behind me. I didn't turn right away. Hooves slowed, stopped. "You're far from your gallows," Caldwell's voice drifted over the warm air. "I like to understand the men I hang," I replied. "That's not your job." "No," I said quietly. "It isn't." Silence pressed between us. I finally faced him. The sheriff looked composed, but sweat gathered at his temple, though the evening breeze had cooled. His horse shifted, restless. Animals feel tension faster than men admit it. "You got paid," Caldwell said. "Not a question." I did. Then let the ground close. His choice of words hung there. I stepped closer to the barn door, running my fingers along the broken latch. Looks like Bell let someone in, I said, or tried to keep someone from leaving. Caldwell's jaw tightened. Eli confessed. No witnesses heard it. He confessed to me. That landed wrong. Confessions in private rooms smell of convenience. I studied him carefully. His boots carried dust, thick and honest. But there was something else. A faint scorch mark along the leather near his spur. Burned. Eli had whispered something else before the drop. Asked why the sheriff burned my saddle. I hadn't understood it then. Now I did. Why burn a man's saddle? I asked lightly. Caldwell's hand drifted toward his revolver without thinking. Just an inch, just enough. You're stepping beyond your rope, he warned. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just tired of pulling it blind. For a heartbeat, I saw something crack behind his eyes. Not anger, fear. Then it sealed over again, smooth as polished brass. Careful, he said. Men who ask too much in this town tend to find themselves on your scaffold. He nudged his horse and rode off, leaving dust to settle in slow spirals. I stayed by that barn until the last light bled out of the sky. The broken latch, the 2 clean boots, the burned saddle. Pieces of a story that did not fit the neat noose I had tied. And for the first time since I built my first gallows, I felt something coiled tight inside my chest. Not guilt, suspicion. I did not sleep that night. Silver lay scattered across my table like a pile of quiet accusations. I turned one coin between my fingers until the ridges pressed a crescent into my skin. Payment before trial, clean boots, broken latch, burned saddle. The pieces circled each other in my mind like wolves deciding which one would lunge first. By dawn, I was already walking toward the holding yard behind the sheriff's office. That was where they kept confiscated property. Saddles, rifles, bedrolls. The remains of men's lives stacked like forgotten furniture. If Eli's saddle had been burned, there would be ash. Ash leaves a memory, even when flame tries to erase it. Deputy Morgan stood guard, chewing tobacco with slow indifference. He nodded at me. Didn't expect to see you without a rope in hand. I'm just looking, I said. Sheriff around? Out riding. Convenient. I moved past him before he could reconsider. The yard smelled of leather, sweat, and old dust. Against the far fence sat a blackened patch of earth no bigger than a poker table. The wood planks behind it were scorched upward in a fan pattern. Controlled burn, not an accident. I crouched and sifted through the soot. Bits of metal buckles survived where leather had not. I found one twisted iron D-ring, edges warped from heat, a saddle burned hot and deliberate. Someone had wanted it gone completely. Careful, Morgan called lazily. Sheriff said that was evidence disposal. Evidence of what? I asked without looking up. He spat. Don't ask me, I just stand where I'm told. That was the trouble with this town. Too many men standing where they were told. I pocketed the warped buckle when Morgan turned away. A small thing. But small things unravel big lies. From there I rode out toward the edge of Bell's ranch again. This time I wasn't looking at the barn. I was looking at the land around it. Tracks tell the truth when mouths do not. The soil near the back fence was softer. Hoof prints overlapped, some fresh, some older. I dismounted and studied them carefully. One set stood apart, deep impressions, a heavier rider, the stride uneven on the right side. A limp in the horse. I'd seen that pattern before. Caldwell's mare favored her right hind leg slightly after a barbed wire scrape last winter. Subtle but present, enough that a careful eye would notice. I followed the trail until it curved wide and re-entered town from the north road, bypassing the main path. Whoever rode that way hadn't wanted to be seen leaving Bell's ranch. The sun climbed higher, baking certainty into the ground. By afternoon, I was sitting inside the saloon, the buckle heavy in my pocket. Conversations hushed when I entered, not out of respect, out of calculation. A hangman walks in, and men measure their own necks. Old man Grady, who once shod horses for half the county, slid into the chair across from me without invitation. You look like a man chewing on a stone, he muttered. You ever shoe the sheriff's mare? I asked. Plenty times. She still favor that back leg. Grady squinted. Since last frost, why? No reason. He leaned closer. Careful where you dig. Caldwell ain't just law, he's roots, deep ones. Roots rot too, I thought. As evening settled, a woman approached my table. I recognized her from the crowd at the hanging. Dark hair pinned tight. Eyes that had not looked away when Eli forgave them. "My name is Clara Bell," she said quietly. "The rancher's widow." "I need to know something," she continued. "Did my husband suffer?" The question carried more than grief. It carried doubt. "He died quick," I answered honestly. She studied me as if weighing whether I was capable of more truth. "Thomas had enemies," she said, "but Eli wasn't one of them." That landed like a hammer. "You believe he was innocent?" I asked. She swallowed. "I believe my husband was afraid the week before he died, afraid of someone powerful. He kept saying he made a mistake, backing the wrong man." "Wrong man for what?" She hesitated. The saloon air felt thick as syrup. "For sheriff," she whispered. The room seemed to tilt. Outside, a church bell rang the hour, dull and steady. Inside my chest, something colder than doubt settled into place. If Bell had planned to withdraw support from Caldwell, and if Eli had known something about it, then that rope I pulled had not been about justice. It had been about protection. Not for the town, for the badge. And suddenly I understood something with a clarity sharp enough to cut skin. I had not been hired to end a murderer. I had been hired to silence a witness. Clara Bell did not cry. That unsettled me more than tears would have. Grief can drown a room, but restraint sharpens it. She sat across from me in the fading lamplight of the saloon, hands folded tight enough to pale the knuckles. Around us, cards slapped tables and whiskey burned throats, yet a pocket of silence seemed to gather where she breathed. "You're certain?" I asked quietly. "Your husband was planning to withdraw support from Caldwell?" She nodded once. "Thomas financed half his campaign, paid for posters, rallied ranchers. But last month something changed." Her gaze drifted toward the window, where the sheriff's office lantern flickered across the street. "He started keeping records, private ones." "Records of what?" "Payments." The word felt familiar. Silver on my table, silver in my pocket. "Payments to whom?" I pressed. She leaned closer. "To Caldwell." The saloon noise dulled, like sound slipping underwater. "For what reason?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But Thomas argued with him 3 nights before he died. I heard it from the house. Something about land claims and cattle routes. Something about men disappearing." "Men disappearing?" The phrase wrapped cold fingers around my spine. "Did your husband keep those records?" I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "In a ledger, hidden behind the false panel in his study wall." "Does the sheriff know?" Her silence answered for her. Outside, boots struck boardwalk, the rhythm deliberate. I didn't need to turn to know whose. Caldwell entered the saloon like he owned the oxygen. Conversation thinned, eyes lowered. He removed his hat slowly, scanning the room until they found us seated together. That was mistake number 1. He approached without hurry. "Evening, Mrs. Bell," he said smoothly. "Didn't expect to see you out so soon." "Grief doesn't keep hours," she replied. His eyes shifted to me. "And you," he said. "Business concluded yesterday. Why stir dust?" "I like to understand the men I serve," I answered evenly. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You serve the law." "Do I?" The question hovered sharp and dangerous. Caldwell's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "Be careful," he said quietly. "Rumors rot towns." "So do lies," Clara replied. The air crackled between them. For a moment I thought he might draw. Instead, he tipped his hat and stepped back. "Mrs. Bell, if you need anything, the law stands with you." He left. The saloon exhaled. Clara's hands trembled now, though her voice stayed steady. "He knows," she whispered. "About the ledger?" "Yes." "Then we move tonight." Darkness settled thick as tar by the time we reached her ranch house. I tethered my horse behind the barn and entered through the rear door. The study smelled of tobacco and ink. A large portrait of Thomas Bell hung above the desk, gaze stern and permanent. Clara moved to the bookshelf along the west wall. Her fingers traced the spines until they paused at a slim volume of Psalms. She pressed inward. A faint click. The panel shifted. Inside sat a leather ledger wrapped in oilcloth. She handed it to me without ceremony. The pages crackled softly as I opened them. Columns of numbers, dates, amounts, beside each entry initials. TCB, and across from them, CC. Large sums. Monthly. Increasing. What was he paying for? I murmured. Clara's face paled. Protection, I think. From what? Before she could answer, a shot shattered the window. Glass exploded inward. Clara screamed and dropped low. I pulled her behind the desk as another bullet tore through the far wall. Voices outside, multiple riders. Caldwell hadn't come alone. I drew my revolver, heart steady in a way it hadn't been at the gallows. Funny how truth steadies a man faster than innocence. Back exit, I told her. We crawled toward the kitchen as boots pounded the porch boards. The front door splintered open. Heavy steps entered the study. They're looking for the ledger, Clara breathed. They won't find it, I said, tucking it beneath my coat. Smoke began to creep along the ceiling. They were setting the house on fire. Flames don't ask questions, they erase them. We burst through the back door into the night just as the roof caught. Horses waited where I'd tied them. I helped Clara mount, then swung into my own saddle. Behind us, the Bell house burned bright enough to turn the sky copper. Caldwell stepped into the yard, silhouette framed by firelight. He didn't chase. He just watched. That was when I understood something else. He wasn't trying to silence us quietly anymore. He was declaring war, and this time the rope wasn't around someone else's neck. It was tightening around mine. We rode hard until the flames behind us shrank to a bruise against the sky. Clara did not look back. That told me everything about what burned in that house. Not furniture, not timber, history, proof. A life reduced to sparks because truth had grown inconvenient. By the time we reached the dry wash north of town, the moon had climbed high and indifferent. I dismounted and helped her down. The ledger pressed against my ribs beneath my coat, warm from my body, heavier than any rope I had ever carried. They'll come for us, she said. Yes. Will the town help? I almost laughed. The town prefers comfort over courage. We sheltered beneath a cluster of mesquite, horses tethered low. I opened the ledger again under lantern light, careful to shield the glow. The numbers spoke plainly now. Payments labeled as range security, but the dates aligned with something else. Ranches that had refused Caldwell's requests to reroute cattle through his preferred trails. Within weeks of refusal, each ranch reported theft, missing livestock, burned fencing, intimidation, protection from problems he created, extortion dressed in a badge. Clara watched my expression harden. You see it now. I see enough. But enough was not victory. Enough was motive. Motive still needs proof strong enough to survive gunfire. A sound drifted over the wash. Hoofbeats, slow, measured, not searching wildly, tracking. I extinguished the lantern and motioned Clara down. The night swallowed us whole. 3 riders crested the ridge above, silhouetted in moonlight. Not Caldwell, deputies. I recognized Morgan's broad shoulders, even at distance. They were sweeping outward, predictable pattern. Caldwell knew I would not run blind into open desert. He was closing the ring carefully. We move east, I whispered. Through the arroyo, hard ground there, fewer tracks. We mounted without another word. The arroyo cut deep and narrow, stone walls swallowing sound. Hooves struck rock instead of sand. Our trail would thin there. As we rode, Clara's voice came low behind me. You could still leave, she said. Take the ledger, ride somewhere no one knows your name. And let him hang someone else, I replied. Silence followed. By dawn, we reached an abandoned line shack used years ago by shepherds. Weather-beaten, door hanging crooked. It would serve for a few hours. I barred the door and checked the single rear window for sight lines. Clara sat at the rough table, exhaustion finally carving through her resolve. Thomas thought backing Caldwell would bring order, she murmured. Instead, he built a monster. Monsters rarely build themselves, I said. Towns do it, one compromise at a time. I spread the ledger pages flat again. One entry near the back caught my eye. A final payment scheduled but never marked received, dated 2 days after Bell's death. Meaning Caldwell had expected more. He killed him before the last payment, Clara whispered as if reading my thoughts. Or because of it. A knock struck the shack door. 3 sharp raps. We froze. No rider would knock politely. I drew my revolver and approached slowly. Who is it? A pause. Then a voice I did not expect. Name's Grady, came the reply. And if you don't open this door soon, the sheriff's men will. I hesitated only a second before unbarring it. Old Man Grady slipped inside, shutting the door tight behind him. Sweat streaked dust across his face. "You two picked a fine night to light up half the county," he muttered. "How did you find us?" I asked. He smirked faintly. "I shoed your horse last spring, recognized the pattern in the sand." "Of course he did." "They're spreading word you murdered Belle and burned the widow's home to hide it," Grady said. "Caldwell's turning the story quick." Clara stiffened. "They'll believe him." "Some will," Grady admitted, "but not all." He looked at me long and hard. "You planning to run, Rope Man?" I shook my head. "No." "Good," he said. "Because there's a town meeting at sundown. Caldwell means to make this official. Brand you outlaw in front of everyone." The word settled heavy. Outlaw. A man who once represented the final breath of the law. Grady leaned closer. "If you're going to cut the head off this snake, you do it tonight in front of witnesses." I thought of the gallows beam, the crowd, the way forgiveness had rippled through them like doubt trying to breathe. Caldwell had used the town as shield. Now he would use it as weapon. Unless I turned it into something else. I closed the ledger slowly. "Then we ride back," I said. Not to run, to finish what that rope had started. By the time we rode back toward town, the sun was sliding low and red, like it too had been dragged through smoke. Grady rode ahead to avoid suspicion. Clara kept her chin high, though her home still smoldered behind her eyes. I felt the weight of the ledger against my chest and understood something clear as steel. This would not end quietly. Caldwell would not surrender power to ink and paper. He would fight with bullets. The town square filled faster than I expected. Word spreads quick when fear carries it. Men stood with rifles resting across their arms, not aimed but ready. Women clustered near the mercantile porch. The gallows loomed at the edge of the square, beam dark against the orange sky. I had built that structure. Now it watched me like a memory waiting to be corrected. Caldwell stood on the courthouse steps, hat tucked under one arm, voice raised in practiced authority. "This town has been betrayed," he declared. "Thomas Bell murdered, his widow misled, and the man we trusted to carry out justice has turned fugitive." Murmurs rippled. I stepped forward before doubt could harden. "You forgot one thing," I called out. Every head turned. Caldwell's expression did not change, but his hand drifted lower toward his belt. "You forgot to finish your ledger," I said. The silence that followed had weight. Clara moved beside me, visible, unhidden. Gasps broke across the crowd. Caldwell had told them she was dead in the fire. That lie cracked first. "She lives," I said clearly, "and so does the truth you tried to burn." Caldwell descended the steps slowly, boots striking wood like a ticking clock. "You break into a grieving woman's home, steal her property, and now you spin tales?" he asked smoothly. I pulled the ledger free and held it high. "Range security payments," I announced. "From Thomas Bell to Sheriff Caldwell, every month growing larger." Faces shifted. Recognition in some, fear in others. "You call that corruption?" Caldwell scoffed. "That's lawful contract protection for cattle routes." "Protection from what?" I demanded. "From thefts that only happened after ranchers refused to support you." A rancher near the front stiffened. "You lost 12 head last winter," I said to him. 2 weeks after you denied rerouting your herd south." The man swallowed. Another voice spoke from the crowd. "My fencing burned." "And mine," someone else added. Caldwell's composure thinned like worn leather. "Coincidences," he barked. "Then explain Bell's barn latch," I pressed. "Broken from the inside. Explain why Eli Carter's saddle was burned in your yard. Explain why your mare's limp matches the tracks behind Bell's ranch the night he died." That landed. A murmur, sharper this time. Caldwell's eyes hardened. "You're reaching." "No," I said quietly. "I'm remembering." He drew first. The crack of his revolver split the square. Wood splintered near my shoulder. Chaos erupted, screams, gunfire, smoke. I dove behind the water trough, returning fire toward the courthouse steps. Deputies scrambled, unsure where loyalty ended and survival began. Grady fired from behind a wagon wheel. The rancher who had lost cattle hesitated, then raised his rifle not at me, but at Caldwell's deputy. Lines were being redrawn in dust. Caldwell moved fast, ducking behind a support post. He was no amateur. 2 more shots rang out, one grazing my coat sleeve. Clara crouched low near the mercantile porch, clutching the ledger tight to her chest. "Drop it!" Caldwell shouted, "or I start dropping townsfolk!" He grabbed a young deputy, pulling him into his line of fire as shield. That was when I understood fully. This was never about order. It was about control. I stood slowly from behind cover. "Let him go," I said. "Throw the ledger," Caldwell demanded. I looked at the crowd, at the gallows, at the faces that once watched me pull a lever without question. Then I did something he did not expect. I tossed the ledger, not to him, but into the center of the square. Pages burst open across the dirt like white birds startled into flight. "Read it!" I shouted. "All of you!" Caldwell hesitated. That was enough. The rancher fired. His shot struck Caldwell's shoulder, spinning him sideways. The deputy tore free. More rifles lifted now, not in panic, but in decision. Caldwell staggered, still gripping his revolver. He looked at me through smoke and fury. "You were nothing but a rope," he spat. "Not anymore," I replied. He fired one last time. The bullet tore through my side, hot and brutal. I answered with one clean shot. Caldwell fell backward onto the courthouse steps, blood spreading dark beneath him, badge catching the last sliver of sun before it slipped below the horizon. Silence fell heavy as ash. I pressed my hand against my wound, breath thin but steady. Around us, townsfolk gathered the scattered ledger pages. For the first time since I built that gallows, I saw something different in their eyes. Not fear. Choice. I did not fall. That surprised me more than the gunshot. The bullet had torn through my side, hot as a branding iron, but it missed bone, missed anything final. I pressed my palm against the wound and stayed upright long enough to see Caldwell lying crooked on the courthouse steps, blood slipping between the boards he once ruled from. No one rushed to him. That told the real story. Grady reached me first, gripping my shoulder hard enough to anchor me to the earth. "Stay vertical," he muttered. "You've done enough falling for one lifetime." Clara stood in the center of the square, ledger pages scattered at her boots like fallen leaves. Ranchers bent to gather them, scanning columns of numbers, dates, initials. Murmurs turned into words, words into accusations, accusations into understanding. Caldwell coughed once, tried to push himself upright. His revolver lay inches from his hand. No deputy moved to return it. "I think this changes anything," he rasped. "It already has," Clara answered before I could. Two men stepped forward and kicked the revolver away. The irony did not escape me. The sheriff who had built power on public hangings now lay at the mercy of public judgment. No rope required. Our doctor pushed through the crowd, kneeling beside Caldwell first. Habit. Authority lingers even when it's bleeding out. But when the doctor saw the ledger pages being read aloud, his expression shifted. He stood instead and crossed toward me. "Bullet passed clean," he said after a quick inspection. "You'll scar, you won't die." "Not today," I replied. Caldwell was placed under guard, though no one called it that. It was simply understood. The town that once accepted his word as law now held him in silent custody. As lanterns were lit, the square transformed from battleground to tribunal. Pages were read aloud, payments confirmed, dates matched with theft reports. One by one, ranchers spoke. Fear loosened its grip once someone dared to break it. The gallows stood dark at the edge of the square, unoccupied. For the first time it looked small. Caldwell watched the unraveling with a face drained of its former certainty. Power, I realized, is loud while it thrives, but very quiet while it dies. Near midnight, he asked to speak. No one moved. He forced himself upright against the courthouse steps, clutching his wounded shoulder. "You think the next man will be cleaner?" he asked hoarsely. "You think this town survives without teeth?" Grady stepped forward. "Teeth are fine," he said. "Venom ain't." A murmur of agreement rolled outward. The rancher who had fired the first shot approached me slowly. "What happens now?" he asked. It was not a question about Caldwell. It was about the town. I looked toward the gallows beam I had once sanded smooth with pride. "You tear it down," I said. Heads turned. "That scaffold was built for justice," someone protested weakly. "No," I corrected gently. "It was built for certainty, and certainty can be bought." The words hung in the cooling air. At dawn, before anyone could reconsider, men brought axes. The first strike against the gallows post echoed across the square like a bell, calling something new into existence. Wood split, nails screamed, each blow felt like a correction written in splinters. I did not swing an axe. My side burned too fiercely, I simply watched. Clara stood beside me, silent but steady. When the beam finally cracked and collapsed into the dust, no one cheered. There was no celebration, only a collective exhale. Caldwell was transported under guard to the county seat by mid-morning. No mob, no rope. A trial awaited him beyond the borders he once controlled. As for me, I remained seated on the courthouse steps long after the square emptied. The rope I had carried for years lay coiled beside me. I picked it up, weighed it once more in my hands, then walked it to the center of the square where the ledger pages had fallen, and I set it down, not burned, not buried, just left there, a reminder, because the truth is this: I was paid to hang an innocent man, and I did. Nothing I uncovered changes that. Nothing I stopped erases it. But in the end, the rope did not decide the law. People did, and that is far more dangerous and far more hopeful than any gallows ever built. The gallows stood at the edge of town like a stubborn monument to certainty. Fresh timber, new rope. I built it myself that morning, sanding the beams smooth as if comfort could be carved into wood. By noon, the square filled with hats and heat. By 1, they brought him out. Eli Carter, ranch hand, 26. Hands tied, eyes steady, boots still dusty from a cell floor. They read the charges loud enough for the mountains to hear. Murder of Thomas Bell, respected rancher, found behind his barn with a bullet in his chest. Witness testimony, motive disputed. Case closed in 3 days flat. Too fast. Justice in frontier towns usually limps before it runs. This one galloped. The judge never looked at Eli while speaking. He stared at me. Eli climbed the steps without stumbling. That unsettled the crowd more than tears would have. A man begging fits the story. A calm man cracks it. When I slipped the rope over his head, I felt the faint tremor in his breath. Not fear. Resolve. He scanned the faces below, searching, not for mercy, but for someone brave enough to meet his gaze. Sheriff Caldwell stood front and center, badge polished bright as a preacher's smile. He gave me a single nod. We'd worked together before. He brought the condemned. I brought the end. Clean arrangement. Predictable. Yet that day, his jaw tightened when Eli's eyes found him. For a flicker of a second, the sheriff looked away. The priest stepped forward, mumbling scripture that tangled in the dry air. Eli leaned toward me then, rope brushing his cheek. "I never touched Bell," he whispered. His voice carried no panic, only urgency. "Check the barn door latch and ask why the sheriff burned my saddle the night they took me." My fingers paused against the knot. I should have signaled the drummer, should have pulled the lever. Instead, I looked at Caldwell. He watched me too closely, like a gambler guarding dice. The crowd shifted, boots grinding dust into nervous clouds. Someone shouted for justice. Someone else spat near the scaffold. The town wanted blood to confirm its safety. "Last words," I said, louder than necessary. Eli lifted his chin. "I forgive you," he told them. Not me. Them. A ripple moved through the square, uneasy and sharp. Forgiveness has a way of accusing without raising its voice. Caldwell barked for order, hand resting on his revolver as if mercy were contagious. The lever felt different beneath my palm, heavier. The coins in my pocket pressed against my thigh like hot iron, payment delivered before the trial even ended. That alone should have been reason to question. Instead, I had counted it twice in my room, convincing myself that speed meant efficiency, not conspiracy. I pulled. The trapdoor snapped open, and Eli dropped clean. The rope caught, stretched, then steadied. No prolonged struggle. I calculate my drops precisely. A broken neck is quicker than slow suffocation. The crowd exhaled in one long, satisfied breath. Justice served. Order restored. Caldwell removed his hat and bowed his head for show. But as Eli's body swayed gently in the desert wind, I noticed something that did not belong. His boots, new leather, soles nearly spotless. A ranch hand accused of wrestling a man to the ground behind a barn should have carried dirt in every crease. These looked scrubbed, prepared. staged. And when I glanced back at Caldwell, he was already watching me, eyes sharp, measuring whether I had seen too much. They still speak my name in that town, though not the way they used to. Once I was the man who measured necks and calculated drops, the final shadow before the sky turned upside down. Now when they mention me, it is quieter, not with fear, with memory. A reminder that justice is not a lever you pull once and forget. Eli Carter's grave sits beneath a cottonwood at the edge of the ridge. I visit when the wind is low and the world feels honest. I tell him what happened after the rope snapped tight. I tell him the badge fell. I tell him the gallows are gone. It does not bring him back, but truth, even late, still matters. Late. The rope I left in the square stayed there for 3 days before someone carried it away. No one knows who. Maybe it rotted in a barn. Maybe it was cut into smaller lengths and used for ordinary work. I like to think that's what became of it. Something ordinary, something useful. No longer a symbol of certainty, but a reminder that the law is only as clean as the hands that hold it. If this story stayed with you, then you understand something most towns learn too late. Justice without scrutiny is just obedience wearing a badge. And obedience can be bought.